All right, perfect. Thank you guys for joining us today. We are having our resource webinar, the first one for the year. If you guys can believe it's already 2021. My goodness, time has just flown by. Today, we are going to be discussing finding your purpose through volunteerism after service. And we have an incredible guest with us today, Brian from Team Rubicon. But before I allow him to introduce himself and do his presentation, let's just go over some quick housekeeping. If you're joining us live, thank you so much for being here. You have the added bonus of being able to ask questions as we go along. And so with that, if you look at your screen at the bottom, there's a little chat box. Please feel free to use that. There's also a separate Q&A box. You can use either or. You can send me a direct message. You can send Brian a direct message. The questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. So if you are watching this on replay and you have a question you would like us to address, we'd be more than happy to. Go ahead and shoot us an email to info@savvyvets.org, and we will make sure that we have, give Brian a little bit of homework so that he can follow up with that answer for you, but we will make sure that you get that. Again, if you're watching us on replay, shoot us an email with your questions, info@savvyvets.org. My name is Adrian. I am the founder of the Strategic Alliance for Veteran Integration. So happy to be here. Our organization is a California-based nonprofit organization that supports transitioning military by educating them on all of their federal benefits and customizing resources to help support their primary objective after service. And so with that, I'm going to allow Brian to go ahead and take it away. I will be in the background, but again, feel free to use the chat box below, send me a direct message, and we will get your questions answered at the end. Brian, please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Adrian. I appreciate that. Huge thank you for you and the entire organization for allowing me a few minutes tonight to chat with everybody. Truly an opportunity. I'm really passionate about the transition piece as a veteran myself, and really excited to chat with y'all tonight, as well as those that then get to listen afterwards. As Adrian mentioned, we'll chat a little bit about a topic that might not always be discussed when we transition out of the military, and that's volunteerism, and how we can use that to leverage and really be a combat multiplier when we are either transitioning or have already transitioned. As Adrian mentioned, my name is Brian Calcagno, and I currently work for Team Rubicon on our associates as an associate of strategic partnerships. You can kind of read a little bit of my background, but really, I think the story, I always like to say that I've had kind of two transitions out of the military during my service time. I originally joined the National Guard after graduating with my undergrad in 2007. And I went in, kind of did some initial time, flight school, went into a deployment, and it was back right after that deployment into the traditional, we call M-Day or part-time service. And that's when I found the first opportunity to, kind of jump into what benefits I had, whether it be educational. I definitely found that was going to be the way I was going to go and get my master's degree and continue my education, but also saw my health benefits and some other ideas, what I had available for me, but didn't have a clear path of what I was doing. It was kind of more things that I was kind of half listening to during yellow ribbon ceremonies, and then, things I picked up along the way. A couple of years after that initial transition, even that deployment, I was lucky enough to be picked up full time for the National Guard as an active Guard reservist in Southern California, where I continued my Guard service as a full-time individual. And I continued that way until separating in 2017. So as that then progressed, I had that second transition. And there I knew, I was then going to be looking for employment. I was going to be potentially using some educational benefits again. But that started my second transition out of the military. And again, a lot of lessons learned that I had from the first transition, but I was still navigating some waters. I, at the time, got out of the Army and just wanted to be a cowboy. As you can see from the hats behind me, I have a passion for agriculture, and I wanted to get into agriculture full time. But if you believe it or not, they normally don't hire cowboys with zero experience full time. So I didn't initially find a role for me somewhere in Montana or Wyoming as I had hoped. But I was lucky enough to have a close family friend pick me up with him up in Northern California. He had a small ranch, and he took me under his wing, allowed me to help around the ranch, as well as put me to work in his construction company, where I learned a little bit of construction management, and that kind of supplemented my income over that first year. I was lucky. I had great family and friends around me, I had a well-paying job, and I was doing great for myself, traveling a little bit, having the ability to not have to worry about drills every weekend. I could go on some adventures, but I knew I was still missing something. And it wasn't until almost a year, was the fall of 2017, that I was kind of in the process of trying to figure out what my next path was. I knew construction management wasn't what I wanted to do, but I was looking for something. And a natural disaster, a fire struck Sonoma County where I was living at the time. And I had heard about Team Rubicon and all the stuff that they had done. I'd actually signed up years before, but never done anything with them. And when that fire hit my community, I figured that was no better time than to step up and kind of help out where I could. And so I found myself on a weekend helping sift through homeowners' houses, the ash of what their home used to be. And in that weekend of service, I realized, oh, wow, I have found that community. I found that, purpose again that I had been missing and didn't know that's what I was missing. And I drank the Kool-Aid. I was lucky enough to then be selected to help start Team Rubicon's long-term recovery efforts, rebuilding houses in Houston, Texas after Hurricane Harvey. And then after doing that for a year, then got selected for our partnerships team, where I get to really focus on employee engagement and really activating our employees with our corporate employees. So really passionate about that transition piece. I think it's really important. Y'all are 1,000 times ahead of most, just being here, listening to webinars about the different opportunities you have. So thank you for being here and listening to me. This is some of the subjects I want to talk about in this. It's going to be more kind of conversational based, and feel free to hit me up with any questions you have at the end. I talked a little bit about my background, and the next piece, and you guys are already doing this, but I can't emphasize it enough. But take this transition seriously, and even, maybe you've already transitioned. Really get into taking and finding out the resources that you have at your hands. And there's phenomenal organizations like Savvy that are out there to help y'all, and really put you're going to get as much out of it as you put into it. And a lot of what I saw personally in the transition piece, whether it was SFL taps or yellow ribbon ceremonies, a lot focused on these kind of big four, and understandably so. We have to have some sort of employment so we can have a paycheck to continue to paying bills. Healthcare is very important. We want to maintain that physical health so we can have years and years of healthy life. Education is extremely important, whether you've already have an undergrad or you're looking to get that first degree or a secondary degree. Knowing those educational benefits for yourself, or maybe that transition to a spouse or another member of your family, knowing how those processes work is super important. And then housing, whether you're trying to buy a home, and what does it take to get that motion, get set in motion. All very important things that are covered in our transition. What I found, and I don't remember it, maybe I wasn't paying as close of attention during my transition, but what I don't remember much about is the volunteer piece and the coverage. And it wasn't something I really even thought about. Like, why would I really worry about volunteering? I want to care about a paycheck first before I start, opting to volunteer to places. And it wasn't until I found it, after not knowing that I was missing it, that I then realized that this is such an important piece. Whether you know it now, whether it comes into your life a year from now, 5 years from now, I think having that opportunity to volunteer and continue your service is an added piece to your transition. And having this in your kit bag to be able to kind of lean back on it and know, I think will be super valuable as you transition through. And what I found, and I can speak to these absolutely, is each of our transitions are going to be very different. Some you might find that phenomenal job fit. You're going to fit in right away. You already have a job before you even transition, and you just kind of motor on down the road. And then maybe it's 12, 13, 14, 15 months later that you kind of realize, all right, maybe there's pieces that I'm missing here. Maybe it's immediately you get that last paycheck, you get your DD-214, and now you're like, all right, what do I do with myself? Your transition is going to be different, but I would be probably, I know that I missed each of these three items between identity, community, and purpose at some point in my transition. And even still, as I continue out, I still kind of, keep in touch with these. My identity, I was Captain Calcano for a number of years. I signed out, took off the uniform, and now I was Brian amongst an entire community of people that really didn't know who I was. I had no real standing, and I didn't have, that initial identity to kind of, fall back on as I did in previously in the military. Community is very obvious. I had the different units that I was in, whether it be, platoon, company size, even just your peer groups that you work with. You have that tight community of individuals that you serve alongside with, and you can quickly find that gone after transitioning out. So that was something that I didn't know I was missing, was that community of like-minded service, driven people. And then purpose is a big one too. I think we find sometimes we supplement purpose with, employment and job description. But sometimes that's not our purpose. Our purpose can be different than what we're doing on a day-to-day basis to get a paycheck. And I did find that where, I was doing some awesome work. I was ranching a little bit, doing some construction management. That wasn't my purpose. My purpose was serving others and helping my community recover after disasters. And so I found myself missing all three of these at some point. And I just want to educate in the sense of just getting it in your mind that these might be things that you could come across today, tomorrow, even years from now. And hopefully you can be like, oh yeah, I remember that long haired guy, Brian, said something about this. And maybe I can find an opportunity to pursue how to fill that. And that's what I really think that volunteering provides. And, you can find so many different opportunities for things that you're passionate about, whether it's veterans related organizations, whether it's community-based organizations, church-based, faith-based, maybe it's something technology-based. There's so many opportunities to find what you're passionate about, and you get that new mission, right? You can have that new purpose of what you're there for. It doesn't have to be, again, tied to what you do 9 to 5 in your day-to-day work. You get that new community of like-minded individuals that are willing to, volunteer alongside of you. I'll tell you what, just like we shared, hardships in the military, you share hardships on a volunteer, engagement with somebody, you're going to create a tight-knit community wherever you go. And then I really love this piece too, because I like wearing uniforms. It's finding that new uniform, whether it be, putting on a gray shirt or a shirt from the American Red Cross, or, just a shirt that says volunteer on it. You have something tangible to put on and kind of get that identity and new kind of uniform, so you can kind of be part of that larger organization again. I really enjoyed that piece again, whether it was a shirt or a hat or whatever it may be. So that is what, I have seen, in my interactions with individuals when they volunteers, they can kind of supplement that purpose, identity, and community they might have missed initially back with what they find through volunteerism that we might not be able to find in our day-to-day employment. I highlight a couple. There's thousands of volunteer opportunities out there. Some of the big, three that I have seen, kind of manifest out of the post 9/11 generation. You have Team Red, White, and Blue, or Team RWB, a phenomenal volunteer group of a veteran organization that focuses on physical fitness, right? They find like-minded individuals to help you physically and mentally, kind of with shared experiences like that. The Mission Continues is a phenomenal community-based volunteer veteran organization that really gets into local communities and helps them where they're at, whether it be a community garden or a civic center, whatever it may be, doing service projects to the betterment of their community. Phenomenal work done by that organization. And then Team Rubicon, a veteran-led disaster response organization where our primary mission is helping, communities recover, prepare, and respond to disasters, and leveraging the experience that military veterans have from their service to help these communities both here in the United States and abroad. So there's plenty others, between Wounded Warrior Project, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans Association, Student Veterans of Association. You can name the veteran organization, and they all probably are filled with individuals that have similar experiences between you and me. But it doesn't have to be a veteran organization that you volunteer with. Like I mentioned, it could be, the local, St. Vincent de Paul. It could be the Red Cross. It could be a humane center or society that you're participating locally or even nationally or internationally. Find what you think it's going to fit you and builds that passion and that drive. And they're out there. And there's, for any kind of, opportunity and interest that you have, there are plenty of organizations out there for you to give time, and especially volunteerism. It's one of the most valuable resources that you as a person can give and kind of back to your community. So, go out there if you're not already part of these organizations. Do your research and jump into the community and those organizations. And then it's quick. It's really this message that I want to kind of leave y'all with. These words. Clay Hunt was one of the early members of Team Rubicon, and unfortunately had lost his battle with post-traumatic stress in March of 2011, so almost 10 years ago. And you can read his words, but what I really think is he talks about, us continuing our service afterwards, and no matter how big or how small, that service is going to be the positive change that our society needs. And that statement was made over 10 years ago, but how true is that now, where we as the veterans community can be the examples to our country, our globe, on what continued service and positive examples for our communities can be. I think Clay hit it right on the nose back just 10 years ago, and it's still relevant today. So I cannot stress enough that I think, again, whether it's today, tomorrow, or 15 months from now, take some time, do some research into volunteering. I really think it can be a value add to, your opportunities and your transition. And I think it'll help you in your daily life. I can tell you it definitely helped me in my kind of transition out, and it's what I love to do. I'm clearly passionate about it, and we'll stand up on a soapbox and talk about it anytime given the chance. So I know not a ton of concrete information, but hopefully just kind of spark some interest for any questions you may have about that. If not, hopefully you can share the word and get out there in your communities and help. So with that, feel free to drop any questions that you may have, and I will be more than happy to answer them now or find the answers out later.
Thank you, Brian, for sharing that. I certainly appreciate it. I actually do have a question for you, since you are being so modest, and I would love to just talk about Team Rubicon a little bit more. And how can people get involved with Team Rubicon?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. It's simple and easy right now. You just go, we have a simple website, teamrubiconusa.org, and it's a simple sign up process. Right now, we're doing a variety of different operations around the United States with a heavy focus on helping our communities with vaccination distribution. So you'll see a lot of us providing that kind of manpower and woman power to get out there and help, just set up, tear down. You just sign up, create a profile, and then you'll be starting to get the notifications in your local area on what's around you. You can be proactive. There's also workshops and socials, and it really is its own microcosm of community to get involved with. You can be a chainsaw operator, a heavy equipment operator. You can be logistics or command and control. So there's plenty of opportunities. Just get onto the website, and there's definitely a need, especially as disaster season, hurricane season is unfortunately just right around the corner.
Right. Now, how about for people with disabilities? Can they still get involved?
100%. Yeah, we like to say there's a role for everybody in Team Rubicon. So no matter your physical disability or any disability for that matter, please, we'll find the right role and what makes you comfortable and get out there and what we like to say is get stuff done. So yes, we accept any and all that are willing to get out there and help their communities.
Perfect. And I did have actually a couple of questions from the audience. Let's see here. Okay, can you volunteer while you're still on active duty?
I can speak to Team Rubicon, as I don't necessarily have the information for the other organizations, but yes, Team Rubicon is open to any and all. You actually don't have to be a military veteran. You can be what we call our kick-ass civilians and individuals that want to help. We find a lot of EMS, police, fire kind of personnel kind of gravitate towards that as well. But I've met many active duty service members that have taken, whether it be leave or, they're on some sort of break that they can go out for a day or two or a week and serve along with Team Rubicon. So absolutely don't have to be a veteran to serve right now.
Okay, perfect. And then I have a question about online opportunities. Is there quite a few ways for people to get involved remotely?
Right now, yeah, it's a great question. All of our trainings and workshops are still virtual remote opportunities. We have not blessed it off on any in-person workshops or trainings right now. So anything you want to do is all online available. When it comes to the volunteer opportunities, they actually like getting out to whether it be a vaccination distribution center or, mucking out a house after a hurricane, those are in person. And there's only a few different small opportunities for remote support, and those usually have to deal with kind of remote, what we call logistics or command and general staff positions, where you kind of manage multiple operations around the United States. They're available. They come with a little bit of prior knowledge needed going, but you can build that up and kind of jump in. But you can take our workshops or even our trainings online right now from the comfort of your own home.
Awesome. And then I have one last question. Do you recruit for specific types of skills?
That is a great question. We have recently done a couple strategic recruitment drives. One being medical professionals, whether it was in the military or currently in your job. As you can imagine, there's been a heavy need for medical personnel, especially with some COVID-related missions we've had over the last year. So we are doing some recruitment there. A lot of our international missions focus on emergency medicine and primary care, so that's where we do a heavy recruitment there. We also are recruiting heavy equipment operators. So if that's something you did in the military, we have a heavy equipment program where mostly skid steers and backhoes, where we help demolition of homes and stuff like that after disasters. And that is few and far between in terms of skilled operators we have. We have a training program that will teach you, but if you come with those skills already, you'll fly right through it. And so that's two of the skills that we're actively recruiting for. But honestly, you can come to us with no skills. I would say no, what you might think is skills, but you have the skills. You can work in small teams in chaotic in environments in a disaster area, and you will fit right in. So you have the skills necessary.
Perfect. And as you were talking, we had another question jump in here. It says, I tried the basic registration steps with Team Rubicon and I'm stuck at the background screening. I don't know what I'm doing wrong with the application process, but would like to get involved and know that what's required, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's a great question. I can probably answer that, probably a direct one-on-one, because what we do is I can find you the help desk with our tech team, and hopefully they can push you through that piece. If you have already kind of worked with them and you're still getting some barriers to entry there, I'm more than happy to personally help figure out where the issue lies. But I definitely will direct to our help desk, because they want to know maybe it's a problem not just you are having, but many people are having, so they can kind of tick that off and know where the problem lies. I have heard the background check at times might create this kind of spinning wheel of death that you don't necessarily get through that. So I will definitely direct, if you're on our roll call profile, hopefully you can go to that help desk and fill something out. After this, I can definitely follow up with an actual website to go to as well.
Not off the hook yet, Brian. Got a couple more here.
Bring them on.
Do you welcome people who have skills in mental health but have injuries but would like to help with logistics? Like, is there a place with veterans that have that experience?
Absolutely. Like I said, there's a place for everybody in this organization. What we find, and you kind of choose your own adventure. It's what you feel comfortable with, and we can, all come together to find the best role. We do have teams that are not just in the field, but they're doing those support roles of logistics. Logistics is the one that people don't always want. And so we need food supportive services. We need, people that are willing to what we call mobilize. So they're booking flights, vetting people to make sure that they have all the appropriate, criteria. So there's plenty of opportunities to get involved, both, in person and not. So yeah, please don't select yourself out of joining Team Rubicon.
Awesome. And with that, whatever information you're comfortable, Brian, what would be the best way for individuals to get a hold of you or Team Rubicon directly?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will definitely put out, we have a kind of a generic partnerships email. It's partnerships with an S at teamrubiconusa.org. Feel free to shoot that to us. I sit in that email thread, myself and a few of the members of our team. So if I can't answer it immediately, our teams can jump on it. You can say, hey, Brian, I heard your webinar and I'm asking some questions. if it's not me, I can get you to the right person who can help answer the questions. So please, partnerships at teamrubiconusa.org, and happy to direct you to the right people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. This has been a wonderful conversation. Again, finding your purpose after service through volunteerism. How do you get involved? What are some of the organizations that you could connect with? Brian definitely mentioned a few. Keep in mind that organizations now more than ever are really relying on the support of incredible volunteers like yourself to give back. And in absence of having capital, organizations can always rely on people. So I think that that's a really important point. And it's, for me personally, speaking from the volunteer sector, I will tell you that it's been the most rewarding work that I've ever done outside of being in the military, of course. And so get involved if you can. If you have the bandwidth, if you have some extra time, even if it's a few hours a month, there's certainly multiple ways that you can contribute and give back. So Brian, if you don't mind, stop sharing your screen so we can see your lovely face. There we go. This is kind of the last chance here. If anybody has any final questions, feel free to put it in the box. We will be following up with any pending questions. Again, if you're watching this on replay, feel free to shoot us an email, info@savvyvets.org. We thank you guys for joining us today on this incredible resource webinar. Brian, you've been awesome. Thank you for your service, of course. And again, as always, make sure that you guys are registered so that you'll be notified of our upcoming events. And we look forward to seeing you guys soon. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.